Welcome everyone to the Canadian Diabetes Association's 2016 webinar series. My name is Farah Ismail and I will be your host for today. We are delighted that you're able to join us today for our webinar on holiday tips to stay on track with diabetes. Now to start off, I would like to draw your attention to our survey. It's located at the top right-hand section of your screen. And in order to better serve your needs, we kindly ask that you provide us with your input by completing the short survey towards the end of our presentation. And we thank you in advance for your input. Now throughout today's presentation, you will have the opportunity to ask questions, and this can be done by simply typing in the question and answer box, and that's located to the bottom right-hand section of your screen. And our presenter will be happy to answer your questions at the end of our presentation. As well, we will be displaying a few polling questions throughout the presentation and would love for your participation. It is important to note that the questions will remain completely anonymous. Also note that you are able to customize your screens. You can expand or collapse them as you see fit. Feel free to do so by dragging down the bottom right-hand corner of each of our webinar pods. Our presentation today will last about 35 to 40 minutes in length, and we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions. I do want to let everyone know that our presentation today is recorded and will be made available on our CDA website. Before I introduce our speaker today, I would like to thank our supporter, Canola Eat Well, for being part of our Canadian Diabetes Association's webinar program. Well, now I'd like to welcome our speaker, Sondra Sherman, and thank her for joining us today. But before I turn it over to Sondra, I'd like to give you a brief introduction. Sondra Sherman is a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator. She is a long-standing Canadian Diabetes Association and Diabetic Quebec member and is a passionate volunteer working at the local, provincial, and national levels. Sondra in 2013 received the CDA 25 years length of service certificate. For more information on Sondra, please read our speaker bio section, and that is located to the left of your screen. So, without further ado, I present to you Sondra Sherman.
Hi, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us this afternoon and taking time from your busy pre-holiday schedule to join in to learn more about holiday survival tips to stay on track. And we will start off with a polling question. What is your relationship to diabetes? Do you have type 1, type 2? Are you at risk? Do you have a child living with diabetes? Are you a healthcare professional, or are you just interested in diabetes-related information? Please click in your answer and press submit at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so we have 36% of type 2s. We have 5% of interested people. We have 47% of healthcare professionals. That's going to be a lot of help towards people living with diabetes. And 7% at risk, 2% with a child, and type 1 is 10%, which is similar to the population. So welcome, everybody. I do have a second polling question for you. So are you participating today as an individual, in a group of 2 to 5, or in a group of 6 or more? If you could press that in and press submit. Thank you. That was quick. So 95% are as an individual, and we have a few groups, 6% of 2 to 5. So welcome to everybody. Welcome to our groups, and thank you for attending this afternoon. Just before I start, I do want to thank Farah for hosting and the CDA for putting on these webinars, and again, the Canola Oil, Saskatchewan Canola, for funding these webinars that we're putting on from November to December. And canola oil, chefs love using canola oil because of its neutral taste, and it helps lower your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol. So thank you to the Saskatchewan Canola Oil Company. Now, during this webinar, participants will learn tips and tricks to manage diabetes during the holidays, learn how to modify traditional recipes to make them healthier, learn how to navigate the buffet table, and understand the effect of alcohol on blood sugar management, and learn tips for keeping active and reduce stress during the holidays. As you can see in front of you, people living with diabetes, there's no diabetic diet. People need to learn to eat healthy. We're going to talk about those challenges, especially during holiday time. You can eat anything you want. It does depend on the quantity. So we have to accentuate quantity. Now, managing diabetes, as everybody knows, is a 24/7 full-time job to keep healthy. During the holidays, diabetes still needs to be managed. Medication needs to be taken daily as prescribed by your physician. Some people have blood sugars that get better and stop taking medications because think they don't need them, but the blood sugars are better because you're taking the medication. We need to have 3 balanced meals daily to fuel our body and our brain. And if you have a blood glucose monitor, keep it nearby during the holidays and whenever you feel necessary, no guessing. And we need regular physical activity daily. So if we start in, eating healthy food is medicine. So some of you might be very familiar with the quote from Hippocrates, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." Hippocrates was a Greek physician living 400 BC. And this is so true. The dietary guidelines from around the world support choosing vegetables, fruit, fish, legumes, lean meats, and whole grains that are associated with better health. And conversely, eating prepackaged, processed foods that are high in fat, sodium, calories are not recommended. So to start off by looking at the recipes that we're using at home, the best way to have healthy food is making it yourself, eating at home. It is a challenge eating out. We will continue to talk about that. But during the holiday time, we're going to discuss how to adapt your recipes to have less fat and less trans fat. So if your recipe calls for butter, lard or shortening, hard margarine, you can use instead canola, olive oil, or non-hydrogenated soft margarine. And if your recipe calls for 30 mils, which is 3 tablespoons of melted chocolate, you can substitute 90 mils or 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder and 15 mils or a tablespoon of soft margarine or oil. Some more suggestions for reducing your saturated fat and calories would be if a recipe calls for sour cream, you can put in low-fat yogurt or buttermilk instead. If it calls for whole milk, you can go right to skim milk. If it calls for ground beef and pork, you can mix that up with a half a cup of cooked meat and add a half a cup of cooked lentils. You could use lentils from a can. Cream cheese, if a recipe calls for, you could go with a light cream cheese. You'll see that on the label. And if a recipe calls for mayonnaise, you can go with a low-fat yogurt. Maybe some of your dips would require mayonnaise. And to help modify some of your recipes for added fiber, vitamins, and minerals, white flour is used in a lot of recipes, but try mixing it half-half. So half whole wheat or half oatmeal, half cornmeal, millet, and half white flour. That's a good start. And if you're using ground beef or pork, again, as I mentioned, to mix half cooked lentils and half ground meat, or adding in 30 mils or 2 tablespoons of bran, whether it's wheat bran, oat bran, that could pick up the fiber content of some of the foods you'll be cooking. Now, learning to navigate the buffet table, that's a challenge. And I'm going to give you some really good pointers. So, first of all, many challenges on that note, as we said, how to keep healthy and party on. Limited choices are available. It's easy to eat mindlessly, just to nibble while you're waiting or eating after you feel full. If there's unhealthy cooking methods foods are prepared and offered at the buffet, or the all-you-can-eat buffets are very tempting and difficult to maneuver. Now, number one, we can make the first food you see at a buffet meal the healthiest food. So this is coming from research from Dr. Brian Wansink from Cornell University, and the first food that people saw at a buffet influenced what they took. If they saw a bowl of fruit or fruit first, they were more likely to take more fruit than if they saw eggs and bacon or turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes. So if you see eggs, you take eggs first. If you see bacon and eggs, if you see fruit, you take it first. If you see the eggs and bacon, you'll take that first. If you see a nice turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes, you'll grab that first. So it's important to know the first food you see is the one you're going to take first and make that the healthiest. So you can do this at home. Make sure the first food at your table when people will come in, whichever angle, should be the healthiest food on the table. So you can make vegetables first, not with or after the meal. and you could have fun making vegetable platters. Now, research has shown when you create a relaxing setting environment for your meals that you will be more relaxed, you will eat more slowly, you will like the food more, and you will eat less. This is more of Dr. Brian Wansink's research. So a trick at home. You can turn on some quiet music, you can turn down the TV, and use candlelight. I want to be invited to this family's holiday table. And another way of helping you out is to have family meals and have the family involved in your food preparation. So again, research has showed an increase in fruits, vegetables, dairy products, and a reduction in soft drinks when the family is involved in preparing. And you could serve water in a festive pitcher. And for holiday time, some water ideas is you could add in some green and red coloring into your water. You could add some lime and cranberries. You could add some kiwi and strawberries, or you could use nice fancy champagne glasses, put the water in that, and put in some kiwi and strawberries in the individual glasses to encourage water. You could prepare vegetable platters, as we saw earlier, or buy them if you're really stuck for time. And as a dip, instead of a heavy mayonnaise dip, you could dip with salsa, hummus. That's a great idea. Anytime during preparation in the kitchen, salsa hummus is a great dip. And there's recipes you could find online. I have some references at the back that'll help you prepare an easy salsa or even a hummus yourself. And a trick, if it's not in your home, you're not going to eat it. So that's so important, whether it's holiday time or not. If you don't have the chips and the pretzels, you're not going to eat them. If you have a nice vegetable platter, these are things you're going to eat. And to prepare fruit platters and to have the better, healthier foods available. During holiday time, you could do a lot of visiting, and when you visit, everybody's offering you food. And Dr. Brian Wansink's research also shows that if you take just a bite of a snack, then distract yourself. So in 10 or 15 minutes after snacking on whether it's a chocolate or cookies, people are equally satisfied whether they had a big portion or a small portion. So why? Our brain is so busy and is involved in controlling our whole body every day that once you've swallowed something, there's not much memory on how much you ate. So 10 or 15 minutes later, you remember that the food tasted good, but you don't remember how much you ate of that. So a trick at home, have a bite of the snack or a trick out when you're visiting, then walk away, talk to somebody, go to the washroom, and you're at a party, it's holiday time, you have family, friends, you haven't seen them in a long time, go over, talk, listen to people chatting, and you'll be distracted. So if you do something that's distracting you for 10 to 15 minutes away from the food, you'll be fine without eating more. What's very important also when you're serving food is the plates. If you see here, there's two plates, one on the left and one on the right. Now, I want you to say which food serving is bigger, the one on the left or the one on the right. So if you said the one on the left, you're wrong. If you said the one on the right, you're wrong. They're both the same size. But this is an illusion. This is showing you the size of your plates. When you serve a small plate, the amount of food in it looks wonderful. When you serve a large plate with a small amount of food, it looks not wonderful, and you're going to be hungry, and you're going to want to eat more, and we don't want that to happen. So a trick to do during holiday time and every time is serve on smaller plates. Put your big plates high up in your cupboard and serve on holiday plates. Another idea with plates is serve on colored plates. More of Dr. Brian Wansink's research shows if the plate isn't the color and there's no contrast, you eat more food. It's not the color, but the contrast between the plate and the food you're serving. So when you serve white pasta on a white plate, research has shown you're taking 18% more pasta than if you would have had it on a darker plate. So this is something to think about, of using colored plates and smaller size bowls, colored bowls, and this is going to help you reduce the amount of food that you're going to actually be eating and serving to your guests, so they will thank you as well. And they're going to want to come back to your party every year. So people say you can't go to a buffet and not overeat. True or false? Who said false? It is false. You can go to a buffet and you do not have to overeat. So research has found 4 things to help you at a buffet. Sit about 16 feet farther away from the food. This might not be possible in someone's house, but it would be possible if you're at a restaurant. Sit facing away from the food. And scout the food, walk around before you even pick up a plate. Conversely, if you are not selective, you take more food. So these are 4 good points for you to remember at your home buffet or eating out at a restaurant buffet. Eating in restaurants during holiday time or any time also can be challenging, so here's some points you might not know. Research also shows that when you order food in a dark booth, or you order food at a table that's near a television set, or you order food from a table near a bar, you're going to eat more. And at any of these tables, you're going to be 73% more likely to order a dessert. Research shows if you sit near a window at a restaurant, you're 80% more likely to order a salad. So these are important points when you're making reservations or you head into a restaurant. You can ask for a table in the light, away from TV, away from the bar, and you will have a much better, healthier meal. Now, at a restaurant, when you pick up the menu, you have to be aware of the traps that are set up in a menu also. This is for the restaurant's benefit, not for your healthy eating benefit. Whenever items are colored or bold or boxed, that biases us. Those are probably the choices you're going to take. The restaurant wants to highlight them. Be careful. The first item on the menu is more likely to be chosen than the 35th item on the menu. Be careful. Read the choices. Words that create biased expectations to the point that something is having a hint of vanilla or toasted coconut will make us spend 15% more money. So think of that, the way things are worded. And crispy means usually comes attached with about 100 more calories than if something is fresh. So remember to look for the words fresh, be careful of hints, and be careful to read the menu. It's your body, you make your choice, don't be rushed. Now, holiday time, people celebrate with alcohol, and we have to have alcohol and we have to be safe when we're doing that. So you may have heard that alcohol has certain health benefits. You don't drink alcohol for health benefits. Any pattern of drinking can be harmful. Proven ways of improving your health include healthy eating, being active daily, being a non-smoker. It doesn't include alcohol in that batch of suggestions. You should not drink alcohol if you are pregnant or trying to get pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, if you have a personal or family history of drinking problems, if you're planning to drive or engage in other activities that require attention or skill, or if you're taking certain medications. You can talk to your pharmacist about that. And a lot of the cities across Canada do offer a service where you can have people pick you up or you make a designated driver. You have to drink and be safe, number one. Now, you have to answer these questions first to let you know, can you drink alcohol safely? Is your diabetes under control? Yes, no, or not applicable to you. If you want to answer that question. And submit. Okay, so we have just under 10% that diabetes is not under control. So right away, not under control, you're going to have to think before you have alcohol. Another question, am I free from health problems that alcohol can make worse, such as disease of the pancreas, eye disease, high blood pressure, high triglyceride, liver problems, nerve damage, or stroke? Yes, no, not applicable. Submit, please. Okay, so this is an even. About 25% said no, so those 25%, you're going to have to talk with your healthcare professional before you drink alcohol. And let's go to the last question. Do I know how to treat and prevent low blood sugar, glucose, or hypoglycemia? Answer yes, no, or not applicable. Do you know how to treat a low blood sugar? This is great. So only 3% wrote no on that. 75% wrote yes, that's great. The rest is not applicable. So if you answered no to any of those three questions, you need to speak to your healthcare educator, your diabetes educator, or a healthcare professional before you drink alcohol. You really have to be safe. On the other hand, if you answered yes to all three questions, it's okay to drink alcohol, but in moderation. So moderate alcohol intake is limited to women to 2 standard drinks, and I'll show you what that is in a minute, a day, or less than 10 drinks a week. And for men, less than 3 standard drinks a day, or less than 15 drinks a week. And this is the same recommendations for people with diabetes or people using insulin or some diabetes pills, which we call insulin secretagogues, which would be diabeta or glyburide. These medications, you have to be aware that you could have a delayed hypoglycemia or low blood sugar that can occur up to 24 hours after drinking your alcohol. And people with type 1 diabetes have to be aware of a risk of morning hypoglycemia or low blood sugar if alcohol is consumed 2 to 3 hours after the previous evening's meal. So it's very important when you drink alcohol, holiday time, not holiday time, it has to be with food. That's so important that you have to realize it has to be with food. A standard drink is here. So it's a bottle of beer, about 12 ounces. Usually there's 5% alcohol. It's a 5-ounce glass of wine, usually give or take 12% alcohol. Or it's 1.5 ounces of a hard alcohol, of rum, vodka, gin, etc. So these are standard drinks, and as we said previously, women up to 2 drinks a day and 10 a week, and men up to 3 drinks a day and 15 a week. Now, I put this slide in just to give you some ideas of where the carbohydrate is in beer and some common mixes, because some people don't realize this. So beer has carbohydrate, so you have to think of that. Light beer has nothing significant, so that's probably a great way to go. Even non-alcohol beer doesn't have alcohol, but it still has carbohydrate. So you have to think about that. And when you're mixing a drink with tonic water, this is the one that everybody, all my patients go, wow, I didn't know that. It has 23 grams of carbohydrate in a glass of tonic water. So perhaps you could switch out and have that with club soda, soda water, same thing, and that would give you 0 grams of carbohydrate. And orange juice, well, we know that. Tomato juice also is giving you 11 grams. And tomato or the clamato juice is really almost 28 grams of carbs. So think twice about how you're going to mix up your drinks. To be safe, a diet drink, if necessary, mixing it with on the rocks is a great idea. With club soda, soda water, great idea. And of course, limiting the amount we talked about. Okay, so learning to keep active during the holidays. And during the holidays, not during the holidays, this is something we have to do all the time. We can schedule in time to do physical activities. I think that's the best way. Everyone's life is so busy, and it's really hard to find time. So the best thing is schedule it in. Schedule it in at 9 o'clock after breakfast. Schedule it on your way home from work. Bring your clothes, stop at the gym, whatever's going to work for you, but schedule it in. Even when you're at home cooking and preparing for the holidays, go out, walk to the corner, come back, but do it. Attend exercise classes in a club near you, in a church basement near you, and do it with a friend or family. Research shows when you have somebody with you, you are more likely to go and do an activity than getting yourself out of the house. So make a pact with a friend or family over the holidays to exercise together. And exercise, it's part of a balance of what you're eating and how active you are. So if you do plan on possibly overindulging, balance it up and overindulge in your activity as well. If you don't overindulge in activity, don't overindulge in your eating. And do it outside. Research shows as well, outside, in the parks and tree settings, you have much more benefit. Snowshoeing, tobogganing, ice skating, building a snowman, mountain hiking, these are all great ideas. And the third, do it, which I didn't mark in, was do it with a friend, do it outside, and do it for your mind. The brain controls your whole body. Wellness is so important. Peace of mind is important, so you do it for your mind as well. And look for activities close to home. In holiday time and normal time, you don't have a lot of time to be driving across the city in snowstorms, construction, whatever, to get to a class. So pick something near your house on your way home that you're going to participate in and go. So learn tips to reduce stress during the holiday. Last week, this webinar that the Canadian Diabetes Association hosted was on stress less with diabetes. So you can go to the website and you could find the webinar from last week, and you're going to have a whole 60 minutes on stress less. An idea for less stress during the holidays is to plan ahead. You make a list of your gifts, make a list of the cards you want to send out, shop locally. It's going to save you again from going down in traffic, looking for parking spots, etc. Support your local merchants, shop locally. Make a shopping list of the food ingredients for your holiday meals. So that mixes with plan your menu. Try to make menus of foods that you can make ahead so you don't have to sit and be in the kitchen when your guests are here. So go to the food store with a food list of ingredients and stick to your list. And set the table earlier. That's a great idea. So again, when people come to your house, you're not going to be stuck on being preoccupied setting the table. So this could all be done ahead of time. I put breathing, so everybody's laughing breathing. Breathing is really important. Again, it's part of the mind, the body. Do it for your mind. And you can take a few minute breaks when you're very stressed and breathe. And deep breaths, we don't breathe deep enough, and it's going to start you all over and give you some more strength to keep going. And physical activity we just talked about, but it's all part of reducing stress as well. Research shows just a few minutes of walking gives you a very positive feeling, and that's something that is incredible for the whole body to witness. So walk around your block, walk to the corner, and try and do the regular activity. Now, I added some gift ideas. Women know this, including young adults, are still responsible for the majority of food preparation within the home. They generally exhibit greater self-confidence, efficacy with cooking and food preparation skills compared to men. So a great gift idea would be a cooking class or cookbooks for men and the young adults in your life. I think this would be great to have, perhaps if you're sushi eaters, a sushi cooking class for the man in your life, or see what's available in your neighborhood, and that would be a great idea. And they could get an expertise other than summer barbecue. More gift ideas, getting your loved ones off the couch. There's a lot of wearable technology today, or as we say, wearable tech. We have Fitbits. There's a whole new series of Fitbits. This would be a fabulous gift for any age, teenager, adult, parents, any age, older people. And it links, you have to have a phone to go with it, a cell phone. But you could match your steps that you take, your stairs that you climb. You could hook up with people and compare and do it with a friend. This would be part of it. So that would really encourage people to get off the couch. Pedometer. Pedometer as well is a small little meter that, ped is the Greek word for foot, and meter that you put on your waist. And every time your waist turns to walk, it's going to measure 111. And there's a website, Steps Count, that has the pedometers that they use in research. So they're very accurate with 2 sensors. And they run about $22 and up, give or take. But that would be a great start for somebody without a phone or somebody not techie, just to track how many steps they do in a day and encourage them to do a little more steps every day. And urban polls. There's a Canadian company we're proud of called Urban Polling, website urbanpolling.com. And there are walking polls. You might see these walking polls around. Vancouver is very popular in polling. Toronto is very popular in polling. Europe has been doing this for years. The polls we see in certain hiking and mountain stores have leashes on the tops of them. And these polls have ergonomical handles and trademarked without leashes. So when you hold the left hand and the right hand, the energy is going right up to your arms. So you're building muscle. Use 46% more calories. You burn your stomach. It helps with the stomach. You have 1,000 contractions for every kilometer you're walking in. They adapt to the winter, and the kids love them. Adults love them. Seniors love them. And check out the website. They have a special for the holidays, and that would be a great gift. You have that forever. YMCA memberships, other sports gym memberships. These are ideas. And gift certificates at the running room. So the running room is all across Canada. And there's groups of just walking, learning to run. And you can buy a good pair of shoes. That would be a great gift. I've done 3 full marathons attached to the running room as part of Team Diabetes from the Canadian Diabetes Association. And that was the first time I bought my real pair of walking shoes. I never had a pair that fit, so they help you fit a pair, a jacket, sports clothes, yoga clothes, etc. So that would really give somebody in your family an idea to go and buy things that will be healthy for them to get off the couch and start moving. More gift ideas to encourage home cooking. Buy a fancy holiday apron, wooden spoons. There's fun measuring cups now, different colors, a lot of fun things. There's, I've said, wooden spoons that have a little happy face on them. And there's a DVD called Forks Over Knives. I'm not sure if anybody hasn't seen it. That's a great gift. It's a study from the United States and China on these men with heart disease who started eating plant-based foods. And there's a cookbook that goes with it, and that'll change your life to eating more plant-based foods, which is a great healthy choice. A point I'd like to mention, if you buy cookbooks, make sure you have an endorsement on your cookbook from the Canadian Diabetes Association if it's a diabetes cookbook. It could even be Heart and Stroke. Anne Lindsay has a lot of books. It could be Breast Cancer Association. As long as there's an endorsement, you know the cookbook you're buying is going to have recipes that work, and you're going to know that if there's nutrition values in the cookbook, the nutrition values are accurate. So be careful if you're buying a cookbook as a gift, make sure that there's an endorsement on the book, or it could be Juvenile Diabetes Association, etc. And you could look for cookbooks everywhere. And if you have a very little budget for the kids, you can go buy secondhand books, and cookbooks are cookbooks. When you're making a recipe, if it calls for a cup of sugar, you have diabetes, put in half a cup of sugar. If it calls for a cup of fat, oil, put in half a cup of fat. You make the little changes yourself, changes we talked about earlier, and any cookbook could be a healthy cookbook. Some more gift ideas is some of our dietetic students at McGill University came up with what we call the Yummy Box. And you hear a lot about whole grains, which we encourage. And people don't know, how do I switch from refined carbohydrates, white bread, white rice, to whole grains, which are pulses, which our prairie provinces have an abundance, and we export so many, we need to start eating them ourselves. It's important for diabetes prevention, diabetes management. The glycemic index is very low, and on that note, I'll just mention next week, the next webinar is on glycemic index. So I encourage everybody to sign in and listen to that. It's going to be given by Catherine Arcudi, my colleague dietitian, who was this year's Canadian Diabetes Association winner of the National Volunteer Award. So glycemic index is lower, and the Yummy Box is something that you pay, I think, $30. You get delivered to your door monthly, and you have 8 oatmeals with flavors. You have 8 pulses, whole grain combinations with recipes, and it gives you a start as to What do I do? It's fun. It's easy. If it's somebody who has never had whole grains, start with half a package, build up slowly, drink a lot of water during the day regardless. But this way it sort of helps you out with getting more whole grains into your meal plan. So just what we've talked about, veggie platters, fruit platters, whole grains, quantity, keeping active. So you be the role model. You highlight how healthy food can be delicious and nutritious. You're the one, you invite people to your house, you're in charge, and this would be, you set the role model for your family. So I hope everybody's going to have a very happy holidays with all this helpful information. And I have references of the clinical practice guidelines from the Canadian Diabetes Association. I encourage everybody to go on the website, diet.ca, and sign the Diabetes Charter to help get equal rights for people living with diabetes, mindless eating. This is Dr. Brian Wansink, Forks Over Knives, and Nutrition Action. A lot of information that we had during the conference today comes from these sites, reliable, recommended websites. And now we're ready to take questions. Farah, can you take some questions for us, please?
Sure, great. Thank you so much, Sondra. You've provided us with a really informative presentation with some really useful tips on really how to both enjoy and survive the holiday season. So we thank you so much for that. So folks, if you haven't had a chance to type in your questions yet, please do so in the question and answer box. That's the bottom right-hand section of your screen. And Sondra, I'll start off with our first question here. One of our participants has asked that they feel bad sometimes when they're attending a dinner and they feel like they're going to upset the host if they don't eat a lot. Is there any strategies or suggestions you might have for this individual?
Yes, and that's a question I hear often from my patients who I see. So you're not alone in that. And what you do is you don't want to insult anybody, and if you haven't cooked it, you're not in control. You take your serving and you do the napkin trick. Nobody's watching you. You could eat a little or see how much you can manage. You put something on a side plate covered with a napkin. Out of sight, you could bring it to the kitchen, put it away, nobody's really watching, but you accept it, you say thank you, and nobody's going to see what you're doing with it after. So you're being very polite, and that's good.
Great, thanks for that, Sondra. Our next participant has asked if you can share your opinion on the consumption of diet foods on a regular basis when living with diabetes.
People with diabetes, as I said, there's no diabetic diet. And you could eat what you want. And yes, it depends on quantity. And the place of diet foods, it would be important when it comes to not even jam, because jam you could buy with no sugar added. Candies could be diet candies, but you can't eat too many because of the sorbitol. You don't want to get an upset stomach. Diet drinks, you can have diet drinks. The research shows the amount that you can have acceptable daily intake today is a large amount, but they are doing long-term studies. The best drink to have is water, and taste buds do change. Every 2 weeks, taste buds change as far as a sweet food. So difficult to answer that question, but maybe they can elaborate as to diet what.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Sondra, and I'll stay tuned to see if there's a part 2 for that question. Our next participant has asked if you know of the role of cinnamon in diabetes.
I do. There was research on cinnamon, and it all started in the States when somebody was researching, actually was a pectin from apples, and they wanted to see the effect on the body. So they said, how do we get people to eat these apples? So they baked them into apple pies. So people ate these apple pies, and they didn't get any results from what they wanted to find, but they found out that some people with diabetes who ate these apple pies, believe it or not, had a little lowering of their sugar. So they said, what was in this apple pie? So they took it apart, and they ended up giving, it was a larger amount, maybe a teaspoon and a half of cinnamon, and the people with diabetes who took cinnamon, not all of them, but some of them had a little better blood sugar. So that's where the whole cinnamon comes into play. So it's not going to replace your medication. If you put cinnamon in some of the foods you're eating, that's great. And we need more research in that area. And the pills aren't the same, not the same as eating the food. But we need more research. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that, Sondra. Our next participant has asked, does an additive like Crystal Light change the benefits of water?
It wouldn't change the benefit. You still have your liquid and your water, but you are having whatever mixed in with your diet beverage. So if you need to have 6 or 8 glasses of water a day and you put Crystal Light in some and you hate water, go ahead. But you're not going to have 6 or 8 glasses of Crystal Light a day. So it wouldn't change the water itself, but it's going to be adding a little something to your plan. And in the long run, if it's a moderate amount, fine. We've got to look at how much you're having of that. If it's 8 glasses a day, that's not moderation. If it's 1 glass here and there, fine. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Do you have a recommendation around coconut oil and if it has any benefits or not, and whether you'd recommend that to somebody living with diabetes?
Again, this is a question I've been getting so much over the past few months because someone in the coconut business has been spending a lot of money on marketing. And people listen to marketing. So years ago, coconut oil was considered a tropical oil, and it was taken out of the foods because it is a saturated oil and it does increase your cholesterol, and it's not recommended for people with diabetes. So as I said, somebody's put a lot of money into marketing coconut oil, coconut water, coconut blah, 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 blah. No. Don't choose that. Make better choices and take canola oil. Definitely 100% canola oil would be a choice, or 100% olive oil. And let me just explain. In Canada, there's no olive oil council. And in Europe, there's a serious olive oil council. So in Europe, when they take olives and they press it, what comes out, they do 2 tests, taste test, pH test. If it passes the test, it goes in an olive oil bottle, best before stamp, certification stamp, bottled in Italy, Greece, Morocco. If it doesn't pass that test, it's sold to Canada, where we have no control. It goes to Laval. For example, in Quebec, we have a station in Laval, and I'm not sure where else across Canada. And it's solvented up with I don't know what, and it's put in a bottle, and it says extra virgin olive oil, and it's sold for $6, $7, $8 on sale this week. Be careful, because that is not extra virgin olive oil, and because there's no council, there's no law. So make sure if you do buy 100% canola oil, 100% extra virgin olive oil bottled anywhere else but Canada. And those are really important points. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much for that very detailed response and for that clarification. Our next participant has asked, why do my blood glucose levels drop after alcohol consumption?
When you drink alcohol, your liver is an organ in the body near the stomach, and the liver has many jobs. And one of the jobs is to put sugar in the blood for if the blood sugar is going low, the liver could put a little sugar in the blood. In the morning when we wake up, the liver puts sugar in the blood at about 4 o'clock. We call it the dawn phenomena, to give us energy to get out of bed after we've been sleeping for so long. So some people have a liver, if they test their sugar at night and the next morning it's higher and they didn't eat, that could be sugar that's coming from the liver. And some people have a leaky liver that keeps putting sugar in the blood. So they might take a medication, metformin or glucophage. And when you take an alcohol beverage, which are the three beverages I showed you, the bottle of beer, 1.5 ounces of hard alcohol, or a glass of wine, 5 ounces, the minute you take that in your body, the body considers the alcohol a poison, toxin. And the liver's priority changes to detoxify your blood. So for every drink, it's going to be an hour or two where the liver's priority is detoxifying your blood. So when you have alcohol, your sugar could go lower and the liver is not going to kick in extra sugar. So that's why it's that important to have alcohol with food, so you don't risk having a low blood sugar when you drink alcohol. Thanks.
Great. Thanks you once again for a very great response, Sondra. Our next participant has asked if it's recommended not to exercise when blood sugar levels are quite high, for example, above 22 millimoles per liter.
So it's probably even at 16 not to exercise. Definitely. It's going to affect, your sugar's actually going to go higher if you exercise at that when it's that amount. So the guidelines are saying if your sugars are over 16, don't exercise. And when you do exercise at a normal blood sugar, you need to have maybe compensate with a snack, depending on the exercise, depending on your medication. You should speak with your healthcare provider about more details.
Great, thanks for that. And folks, we'll just take a couple more questions here for Sondra. And if we don't get to your questions today, please feel free to email us at webinars@diabetes.ca, and we will be happy to follow up. Now, Sondra, I know you did speak to this earlier, but I think some folks are looking for a little bit more clarification and understanding in terms of why canola oil might be a better choice for people, especially people with diabetes.
Okay, so canola oil is a good choice for people with diabetes or without diabetes. Canola and olive oil are, the type of fat in them are monosaturated fats. The type of fat is dependent on the chemical configuration of the oil. There's saturated fat, which has many bonds. And there's polyunsaturated fat, which has a few, and there's mono, which has one. When you take safflower, sunflower, corn oil, these are polyunsaturated fats. And this has been shown in research to lower your bad cholesterol, your LDL, but it can also affect your HDL, your good cholesterol, and lower that. We don't want that. So someone with diabetes, heart disease, just general health, you go for the choice would be, the better choice would be a monosaturated oil, which would be canola oil or olive oil. When you eat these oils, they will lower your bad cholesterol, LDL, and they will not touch your HDL, your healthy cholesterol, which is what we want. So that's why educators usually promote olive oil and canola oil. It's not to say peanut oil is also a monosaturated fatty acid, but there's not much research in peanut oil. So we follow the research, and the research is telling us the canola and the olive are the good choices.
Great. Thank you so much for that clarification. And folks, our last question here comes from a participant that's asking, what are the dangers on my blood glucose levels if I am having late night snacks?
All right, so let's see how to answer that. Late night snacks, it depends on medication. If you take insulin and you have a late night snack and your blood sugar is in control and you know how much insulin you need for the certain snack you're eating, you manage and you're good. If you don't take insulin, you're on medication, and you have a snack late at night, depends on your weight. If weight is an issue, you might not want to eat later at night because it's just going to sit on you. You might wake up in the morning or perhaps the next morning and your blood sugar is higher than it would be had you not had the snack the previous night. So this is something that would require blood glucose testing. So you could test before supper, after supper. You could test before bed, the next morning, with a snack, without a snack, depending on what the snack is. Perhaps a yogurt would be better for you than a sandwich. Again, weight, blood sugar, medication. It's a difficult question to answer, but you're going to have to do your own detective work.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that, Sondra. And folks, that does conclude our webinar today. I'd sincerely like to thank Sondra for speaking on behalf of the Canadian Diabetes Association. It's been a very great learning experience. I do want to remind everyone that our webinar today has been recorded and will be available on our Canadian Diabetes Association website as well as our YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. And once again, I would like to thank our supporter, Canola Eat Well, for supporting our webinars program. Just to also let everybody know about our upcoming webinars, so as Sondra has mentioned earlier, we will be ending off this year discussing the glycemic index with Catherine Akrudi, and so please stay tuned for that. We look forward to your registration and participation. So again, that's next week on December the 15th. And for those of you who have missed any of our past webinars, please visit our website at diabetes.ca/past webinars to find some more information and to catch up on some of the webinars that we have done previously. And for those of you who do enjoy our CDA webinars and would like to donate, we encourage you to do so, as Boost Diabetic has actually pledged to match all of our donations up to $100,000. So if you'd like some more information on that and to donate, please visit diabetes.ca/donate for that. And just to close off here, for those of you who are looking for some more support and resources to live well with diabetes, please feel free to call our toll-free line at 1-800-BANTING. That's 1-800-226-8464. We thank you for joining us today, and we hope you've enjoyed learning with the CDA, and we look forward to your participation in the future.